Welcome back to the seventh grade mustache. On today's episode, we'll be speaking about fellowship. Fellowship is a very important need for the human psyche. It brings people together, it heals us, it helps us to learn universal truths, it helps us to see the importance of the small things in our life. And recently, human beings have been tested in their patience, in their resolve. They have been seeing that the need for fellowship is ever more important in these times where people are being quarantined, where states are being opened, shut down, reopened, and it's exhausted the hell out of people. And so I want to start in early childhood where most of us have our experiences with fellowship. My earliest experiences with fellowship began in my neighborhood, just meeting kids that like moved onto my block, or kids that were new to my school or whatever. And back then it was just common to, like, when a new kid would move onto your block, you go over to his house or her house and you knock on the door, you just introduce yourself. Little kids, they're raw. They don't have a lot of the hangups that adults do. So I think kids, they're willing to take a chance before they learn about disappointment, rejection. Like they'll like, I'll like, hey, you want to be my friend? Let's go play. I got some toys, or I got a basketball. Let's go hang out.
Look. The real deal is that the kids learn the lessons very well, and so that's why whenever you hear this stuff like, "Oh, racism is taught," or "This is taught," it is. Even when it's not directly taught, it's just an observation. Kids learn those lessons. They observe how you behave and interact with others. So when you are an open person and you're outgoing, and your kid sees that, then they're the same way. Like they're gregarious. Like, oh, hey, what's up, bro? You got a basketball? Shit, let's go. You don't need anything more than that. You don't need even a proper introduction. Like, man, we used to go to Fontanelle and we'd be playing basketball. We didn't even get the other nigga's name. You know what I'm saying? We just be playing like, fuck it, let's go. Or and so it didn't matter. And then all of a sudden, like, I think what people really discount is that we are social creatures, and being around others enhances who we are or makes us feel better. And so many times you see that, that's how you punish people. You take them away from their family group or their social group. That's a punishment. You see it. You see it in dogs. If you want a dog to get mean and hate people, whenever somebody comes over your house, put that dog in a closet, lock that dog away, and eventually he's going to hate company, because he's going to be like, or she's going to be like, okay, every time somebody comes over, I get taken away from my family. And so eventually that dog is going to see somebody come in the house like, all right, look, nigga, every time you come in, I can't see my family, I'm biting your ass. So, like, fellowship, interaction, being around others is important. And I think that sometimes we think we're above it. I think we think that it doesn't matter, and that we're in this little microcosm and we can control that. Then all of a sudden, like, then when it's forced on you, like with the quarantine, it's forced where you can't be around others. It's a whole different ball game.
You really see about you see the things that you take for granted.
Yes, 100.
So check this out. Yesterday I did some work for a Nigerian woman, and she was telling me how she had just moved back from California, and she highlighted something that I've been quietly observing for a long time. In America, the largest concentration of black people are in the South, and that's because of the history of slavery. And a lot of black people stayed in the South when slavery ended, although there were also many that went west into the North and all that. So she said that one thing she took for granted living in Atlanta was all the black people. And she stayed out there for 5 months. She was like, I don't like it out here. She's like, I need black people. And I started laughing because it reinforced something that I've been saying for a long time. When you go out west, you can see the stress on black people's face. Even the most affluent blacks out there, you can see that the stress becomes cooked into their face. And when you look at black people in the South, when you look at black people in the immediate North, they don't have that hard ass like just weathered look, and it's a weathered look, man. It's crazy, and you see how relaxed people are, even though their lives may be stressed. Like they have a stress valve that can like open and like metaphorically and like release this stress. In California and in the western states, there's fewer black people. A lot of black people end up going out there starting out on their own, so they don't have a support system. In the South, you got your family, you got all your people. You know what I'm saying? Like you have people you can relate to. You have people that look like you, so you're not as stressed. You're not so tense. And she said that she went. She was a Nigerian person that went to Howard and HBCU, right? And she was so used to being around black people, she just took it for granted. And then she went to California 5 months ago, and she's like, "Oh, this is crazy. Like, I'm not comfortable in this place. The people around here don't look like me, and when I do see people like me, it's few and far between. Because when you go like to like Los Angeles or you go to like Oakland or San Francisco, most black people live in concentrated areas, and you'll see like a little sprinkle of black people in different parts of LA and then different parts of like Oakland or San Francisco in the Bay Area. But dude, in Tennessee, in Georgia, in Florida, in Alabama, in Ohio, you see black people all over the place. You know what I'm saying? You see black people everywhere and you get used to it. You get used to seeing black judges and doctors and lawyers and educated, affluent black people. But then you go out west and it becomes an exception and just like, wow. So when she told me this, man, I just burst out laughing because I understood what she was going through. And that is a form of fellowship. She was seeking that fellowship. And so she said she really didn't like consider that like when she went to an HBCU, even though she was African, Nigerian African, she felt more at home there than she did when she went to California because those were black people. She's a black woman. You know what I mean? So she felt at home. She felt welcome at HBCU. You know what I mean?
And it's kind of a complicated conversation for me
Speak
because
on it.
one, so there's something that me it's like a separate conversation, but you got to remember, I went to black school too, and all my homies were from LA and Chicago. And if you look at LA and Chicago, Chicago's still highly black. LA was super black back then. I hate to say this, but I think whatever the agenda was, it worked. Where LA, like you said, LA, when you look at the LA riots, look at that. That was nothing but black folks. There was a few white folks sprinkled
Right,
in, a
but
few
but that
Mexicans.
that that was in a black neighborhood though. Those
No,
were
no, no, no. Hold
Watts
it, hold it.
riots.
No, no, no. I know what you're saying, but what I'm saying is black folks don't have it like that no more in LA, and I don't know when it changed. So what you're talking about, you do a lot of business out there, but you got to remember, I spent a lot of my childhood out there, and it was way more black, and I don't know how I don't know if it was like a mass migration and people started going other places because one of the things that I've observed is this sounds so corny. So I'm doing nerd talk. Okay, the housing market in LA is so different than the housing market anywhere else. So a house in LA that's literally $1.2 million would be 200, 300,000 someplace else. So a lot of the older black folks, when they were retiring, they literally sold their house for 1 million in LA and moved someplace else. I'm just trying to figure out when that population got diluted like it did. That's what I'm saying. Um,
But hang on. What you got to understand is what really brought blacks to Los Angeles and the Bay
well,
Area was
yes,
World
yes,
War II. Jobs working
yes,
in
yes.
shipyards and
Like
building
Baldwin,
airplanes.
like Baldwin Hills. That was that rich, affluent black area, kind of like Black Hollywood or
Correct.
Black Beverly
Correct.
Hills. Excuse me. And that they were all longshoremen and wharfmen. They worked in the docks. Those jobs paid super great. Um, all I'm saying is that some kind of way it got diluted out there, bro. And I don't know if it's some kind of agenda or if black folks got tired of dealing with the bull crap
And
and
the real
left.
estate just got too high, man. Like, and
What?
the property tax and
But I'm
the
telling,
taxes
but that's
in California,
yeah.
the taxes are a motherfucker. Like it's 35%, dude. Like it's hella
it,
high, man.
same, but same thing with Chicago. But Chicago didn't get diluted. But I digress. What I'm saying is that we used to go to LA when we were kids to be around black folks. Now it's a different vibe out there. Um, I know this. I do something you said I told you before. Sometimes I look for a black face. I'm just like, oh,
Yeah,
whew,
man.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, like whew, look,
But
Lord.
see,
But
In the West, you do that though, because like, and she's this. Let me add on to what she was saying. She said when she came back to Atlanta, she was smiling every day. She said she would smile whenever she saw
skipping,
a black person. No, real talk.
skipping
She
down
was
the
like,
street.
and
Yeah,
it
I
made
know.
me think like, whoa, like why don't we do that all the time? It's like Tupac said, like you black, smile. And the thing is like, why don't we do that all the time? Because we just get caught up and we take everything for granted. But she said she was like, whenever she saw a black person out there, she would just strike up conversations with strangers. Hey, how you doing? What do you do out here? You know what I'm saying? Just happy, like she was on another planet and she saw a human. She said that's what it was like.
But another thing that Africans have is they have a much broader world view. I've dated a couple African women. One was from Cameroon, one was from Nigeria, and their world view is different. Like they believe in the world. They're world travel. So for her to say that, yeah, we, people of color are not the minority in the world but we are the financial minority, of course. But it does feel good when you see your own people. Um, Also, I think that sometimes we're afraid to branch out.
Yo,
That
listen.
that you know,
When I went to Italy, bro, and I saw black people out there, I did the same thing. I did the same exact thing, and they came up to me like, "What's up, man? Yo, I'm just out here chilling, man. Like, blah 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 blah. Like, yeah, it's crazy out here. It's like, man, the food, And we would just talk, and there was like we struck up an instant kinship, a fellowship. You know what I mean? And we just connected on just like a lot of different stuff. But people do that, not just black people, but like all people connect
yeah,
on for from the smallest
some
things.
level,
When you're little
yeah.
kids, you might be like going down the street and you see a kid like at the edge of the woods like playing with some GI Joes or like playing with Transformers and like, yo, I got Optimus Prime in my pocket. Yo, let me jump in. You know what I'm saying? Or I got Soundwave. You have something right away that like creates a bridge that
Look,
allows you to connect with other people.
look. I remember like when me and you met, like the situation, and I ain't gonna put nothing out there, but I remember like when we started playing, and you had all the GI Joe action
You
figures, and
goddamn
I had like,
right. You goddamn
and,
right.
see, that's why I was jealous of you. Have like he has a dad, but you know what I had that you didn't? I had all the vehicles. I had
Yep.
the Sky
So
Strike.
so
So
guess what? So guess what? So it was perfect. I had all the soldiers. I had the infantry, and you had the fucking cavalry fleet.
and so that's a connection. We've been talking about race if that's a connection, but when you go overseas, I've only been out the country once or twice. I went to Mexico a couple of times, and you're when you go outside the country, you're happy to see an American. You're happy to have somebody speak English, because you're like, oh, you American, cool. Hey man, what should I order? Because I don't know what the fuck to get. And that's the vibe. I do realize that especially with our country right now, especially that we're forcing people to recognize these race issues. That we love to say, people say little things like America was never great and this shit like that. But the fact is that you know back in the day, American was your kinship. Like, hey, you American, I'm American. Let's play baseball. You're American, I'm American. Let's play basketball. And that's how it was. Now, and don't get me wrong, I do feel that it's important to address these real issues and not be afraid to talk about them and not let people stifle you. But the idea that we're so different ain't the case. I love, one thing about being in Oklahoma is when you would be down there and you would go to like a black rodeo because being in Omaha, we were taught like the rodeo and the cowboy shit was white folk stuff. But nah, when you go down south, nah, it's not white folk shit. When you find out about like Bass Reeves, we talked about him before.
Mm-hmm.
Bass Reeves is the inspiration for when you go to the Television History Museum, I think it's in Hollywood, and they have the whole exhibit for the Lone Ranger. They have this little space, and they talk about Bass Reeves, who's this black dude. He was the one that was a slave, beat up his master, left, became the first marshal, like in Oklahoma and all this. He knew the Creek. He knew how to speak all the Indian languages, and the whole idea of the Lone Ranger giving out a silver bullet. He used to give out silver dollars. That's when you find out the Lone Ranger was a black dude, it changes you. You realize that okay, we got some more history going on down here, or this riding horse thing ain't just a white people thing, or this rodeo thing, and then you find out half the cowboys were black and Mexican back in the day, that kind of stuff. So what it is that we have way more in common than people realize, and I think that we love to isolate the things that we don't have in common. But the fact is, like, you can find more in common with somebody. Like I said, I remember. And then the other thing that me and we used to fight about, like, I had all the Transformers and you had all the He-Man, and so like we always found a way to like connect. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And so like I think the term fellowship, we always have used it in a religious sense, like, hey,
Yes.
fellowship, come to the church. But I think that what it talks about is being around people on a spiritual level. I think what it really it being around somebody and you have this deeper connection. Like you see it all the time with sports. That's why people with this Corona thing, people making such a big deal about sports. How we're going to come back from sports, because when you have a football stadium full of people and you're both cheering for the other team, that's your connection. It's a connection there. And we know deep down that if it's going to be a year or so before we get back to normal, how we going to do this thing? It's not just watching the NFL. It's not just the physical athletics. It was also the camaraderie. It's also the tailgating. It's also doing barbecue in the parking lot. Man, that connection is a motherfucker, and people need that. We're also, people are battling depression because of that. Like, hey, um, I'm sitting here in the house, I'm depressed. I can't go to work, or I'm sitting here in the house. I can't do my normal routine. Hell, you know what's pissing me off? Walmart's still closing at fucking 8 o'clock. God
Yeah,
dog, it's a
man. Yeah.
motherfucker.
Okay. All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's annoying.
you brought up you brought up religion, and religion. That's actually a good segue, but I don't want to talk about the most well-known persecuted fellowship, which is Christianity in the Roman occupied Middle East long ago. I actually want to talk about one that some people may know, but most people don't know about, which is the Shimabara rebellion in feudal Japan, and it happened for about between 4 to 6 months, and it lasted between 1637 and 1638. And it was a uprising of Japanese Roman Catholics. It united a lot of people. It actually started because of heavy taxation by the Japanese government. And so what happened is that these people created their own militia. And this happened in the Shimabara Peninsula. And they were mostly peasants and poor people, but they had saved money, they had acquired gold, and they hired a large number of Ronin, masterless samurai, to fight back for them. And they hired ninjas, which is crazy because these samurai and these ninjas hated each other. Now, they were paid, but some of them were also Christians. And so the fact that these warriors that hated each other now were united under Christianity to fight back against the government. They were so strong that they fought against a troop of 100,000 samurais controlled by the government. They beat 100,000 samurais and sent their ass running. That's crazy.
Look, when somebody is inspired, they can do anything. That's why I hate when people say stupid stuff like, that's the gun control argument.
Right.
Can you really go up against the government? I'm like,
But
dude,
but check this out. You brought up guns. So the Japanese government spent a bunch of money hiring the Dutch to bring in a gunboat, and the
Mm.
gunboat from the harbor started blasting these rebel strongholds. Now, the messed up part is this actually wound up being the end of the Christianity movement in Japan for centuries. But what I'm illustrating here is the fact that these people had fellowship under religion, under this Christian faith. They were united by this.
They had that
So,
connection. But also part that you pointed out that people will avoid is that taxation without representation.
yes,
Look,
that was the problem.
yeah, when you overly tax somebody, that will inspire them to do some amazing stuff. Because hell, the American Revolution, fellowship, it's more than just friendship. It's more than just camaraderie. It's there's a connection where you guys have a common goal and you really believe or agree or you really go towards something.
Yeah, that's a very important part of history, actually, world history, that many people don't know about. And it's not only about Christianity and religion, but it's also about fellowship. And it's a good example. And that's why I chose it because, number one, it shows that people under a common cause will fight and die for what they believe in. And we see this in many different cases throughout reality. I mean, we have, the civil rights movement that brings people together for a common cause. And, these people who were persecuted and attacked, were willing to go all in, and put all their cards on the table because for something they all believed in collectively.
But also the minority is fighting a majority. That's the other, a new, you know,
The
in the
underdog.
world. Yeah, exactly. In the world, we're not a numerical minority, but in America, we are a numerical minority, and we still fought the bigger foe. We not only we physically fought them, but we also fought culture. We fought mental aspects. We fought laws, all the above. That's why it's so important. Whenever I was mentioning earlier the gun control thing, because people love to say that you can't fight the government; they got tanks. Well, but look at Vietnam. America, the biggest military in the world, fought some rice farmers, and the rice farmers won. Look in Afghanistan when Russia was trying to take over Afghanistan, and we gave them the CIA gave weapons to the people up there. They still beat Russia. Your numbers don't matter, and also the amount of weapons you have don't matter. As long as you defend yourself, you can fight off the bigger adversary. And those are just two cases where the two largest militaries in the world were beat by a bunch of little brown people. So don't ever convince yourself that, oh, you just got a little gun. I can't. No, the reason you have that gun is because you have a right to defend yourself. And but that's the whole fellowship aspect. Those people had a spiritual connection to the land and to what they were going for. And don't get me wrong, like I said, um, the small they're the smaller army. They have less weapons, but they believed in each other. They believed in what they were fighting for. And what do you do when you're on horseback in a Russian Hind helicopter shows up and is shooting at you with 50 caliber weapons, and you get your little rocket launcher, you take it down? That ain't supposed to happen. That narrative shouldn't exist. So we drop a napalm in Vietnam, and these dudes are digging themselves in little holes. When the napalm's over, they coming out still killing you. That's because they believe in what they're fighting for. So that fellowship, that spiritual aspect, that spiritual connection, where we're not fighting because it's my job. I'm not fighting because I'm getting a paycheck. No, no, no. They ain't fighting for a paycheck. They fighting for something different. That's a whole other vibe that people don't. That's an aspect people don't understand.
Yeah, no doubt. There is a dark side to cults. There's a
Of course.
there's a dark side to fellowship, and cults are a perfect example of that. There are people who are united under these causes that to outsiders may seem strange and arcane, but to these weak-minded people who are in need of a fellowship or a father figure, they fall under this umbrella of this cult leader's protection. And you see it like manifest like in a lot of different ways. I mean, of course, the most popular one in history would be the Manson cult.
Look, well, we could talk about the Nazi Party. There's cults on larger levels, but I think what people don't realize is that goes back to the whole thing that you said initially is that, well, we both said we're social creatures, and your need for to be in a social group or be accepted by a group. It's difficult. I mean, look at gang life. You know, we all know gang life doesn't end well, but people are gangs. The numbers are up now because people want to be accepted. People want to be in that group. Well, that's how that cult works. You know, all these people are outsiders. They're all different, but they're also smoking weed, doing drugs, and they want to fuck. So you can't just do that in normal society, right? So you create your own society. And whenever you see these situations, sex is always a part of it. Manson was fucking them broads, robbing banks, killing folks, all that.
I mean, even as recent as Nexium, which is a sex cult, which actually had a branch of it that was just specifically dedicated to pedophilia. But let's stay in
Oof.
Japan for a second here, because in March 20th, 1995, you had the Shinrikyo cult, which actually released sarin gas into the subway
Yes,
system.
on the subway system. Yep.
Yep. Yep. Now, the Japanese weren't playing that shit. They captured the leader and executed his ass. They they don't play, man. Like, see,
Like,
okay, you gotta understand like who you're dealing with. Like back in like medieval Japan, they would boil people in oil. Okay,
didn't give a damn.
they ain't give a damn. Zero fucks in the tank. You understand? Like when you
Like,
mess up in Japan, that's your ass.
look, ain't gonna be no ashy peasants. We're gonna put this oil on your ass, and we're gonna fix this shit.
No, no, no. We're gonna put this Crisco on you, and
Yeah.
you gonna be some fried chicken.
Fry that chicken. Look, but it's the same way in Russia. They don't play with terrorists. You
No,
know,
dude, you
when
had
you have a
Pussy Riot. You had Pussy Riot, a band that was singing about like mild rebellion. They locked them girls up in
up,
Siberia in a gulag. Do you know what a
yeah,
gulag is, man? Like,
look, that let's talk about Siberia. I remember I remember when I first found out about Siberia. I think we were like in third grade. We had
yeah,
Miss Kasem, and
no, no, it was
Miss
before
Kasem.
that. It was before that, man. It was before that. It was GI Joe. It was
No, hold it. No, we see something on GI Joe, but then you ask about stuff. You're like, what is Siberia? And then she explains like, okay, so in Russia when you fuck up, they send you to Siberia. Siberia is like, okay, Siberia is not up here the Arctic Circle, but it's a whole part of the country that's frozen. It's
Listen,
always 30.
basically the whole country is saying to you, everything outside, outdoors is saying to you, you fucked up,
It's
right?
killing you.
You know you
Yeah.
fucked up.
Every,
You know you fucked up,
yeah.
right?
The weather is shitty all the time. They got big ass wild boar running around. Only the harshest people can live there, and then they send you. And you from the city, and they send you there. Like, hey, you know what?
It's a wrap.
You want to be in prison up here. You don't want to ever
You
go
want to be a
outside.
tough guy? All right, we got something for you, tough guy.
Yeah, I got something for your ass. Um, like I, I heard this rumor one time that one of the Secret Service agents for Michelle Obama that she fooled around with him or something. They said they sent that nigga to Siberia. They like, hey, they, they send Americans to Siberia too. Trust me. Don't think that this cat got like a normal job now. I ain't saying it really happened, but I'm saying that these Secret Service agents, whenever they fuck up, they end up getting killed or they disappear. Go, Going back to the Waco incident, the only two people got killed in the
Oh,
Waco.
Waco.
Yeah, the only two people that got killed in that Waco incident, which was a cult, was weak-minded people, and he was having sex with these 13-year-old girls, David Koresh. But the only two good guys that got killed were the two former Bill Clinton bodyguards. They're the only ones that got killed
Oh,
by
you talking about
friendly
the
fire.
cops? Because they killed a bunch of
Yeah,
women and children.
yeah. No. I know they killed a bunch of women and children, but the only two cops that got killed were the two former Bill Clinton
Right.
bodyguards.
So this is what we're gonna
And,
do. We about to go run up in here. We're gonna kill some people. And listen, this guy over here and on the left, just make sure he's in the front when we start shooting.
yeah. And make sure he gets hit in the back of the head with friendly fire. I
Yep.
don't know what the fuck friendly fire is, but
Because it ain't friendly getting shot by somebody you know.
yeah. But no, we talk about these cult situations, and we're always like, how can them people get sucked into that? How can
Because they were in need of something. These people, they that cult provides a need. And see, it
yeah,
goes back to the beginning of this conversation, which is the humanity's need for fellowship and being around other people. And then you couple that with like a person who's already damaged, who's in need of something, who needs a father figure or he's a mother figure or somebody to tell them that's all right and give them guidance, because that person in society, they can't do it on their own. They can't go
But
out
but
and
it,
get a
but
job and
don't
function and keep it all together.
but don't forget about like Jim Jones. What you got to remember is these people would create their own societies, and then all of a sudden they said everybody's on the outside is bad. They don't believe in God like we do, and they hit you with the religious aspect. And then Jim Jones had a bunch of black folks out there too, and he treated them like shit when they got down to the Guianas. But the bottom line is that you got black folks up here in America that was disenfranchised with America. You got racism, you got all this other stuff, and so you got black folks talking about socialism and communism. So what do? They made their own commune. They created their own
Okay,
situation in
so I'm
another
I'm
country.
glad you mentioned that. So then you have these black people that talk about communism, and they're mostly young people that are saying like, yeah, communism is great. So how about you go and do some research and you look into see the numbers of how many people that were killed under communist regimes in oppressive manners. Look that up and then tell me if communism is still great. It's one of those things that people keep doing over and over until they think they're going to get it right. That's insanity. That's the definition of insanity.
Same thing over and over, and with a different result. That's what
Yeah.
happened. Let's talk about socialism because that's another thing that me and you we talked about it in our previous broadcast, death of the civics class. But you got all these black folks talking about socialism, and I'm like, don't you realize Hitler was a socialist? No, Hitler was a fascist. No, Hitler was a socialist. Mussolini was a fascist. You got to understand that socialist. And so, what happened to the black folks in Germany under Hitler? Do you know, sir?
Hmm.
Yes, because
No, 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 no,
you
no. Let's talk about no. Let's take it even deeper. Let's talk about the little black boys in
yes,
Germany
that
and what
that's
happened
where I'm
to them,
going.
and the fact that
That
they were castrated.
yeah,
These little
see,
black
see, you
boys
you
were
you gonna
castrated.
take my fire? Yes, the black males in Germany because, like I said, Germany's socialism, and so even though he didn't like black folks, there were black folks living there. So what happened to those black folks? If you go to New York right now, they ain't gonna talk to you, but there are black men that are from Germany that are he might be dead by now because they'll be in their 80s, maybe their 90s, but they were castrated. Hitler castrated all the black men in Germany.
Yeah.
So now this is twofold because most of you guys are thinking that it's because he didn't like black folks, but you got to remember he was also doing away with the old regime. So the Konks, which is the German royal family, the original German royal family are called Konks. They're black. They have black origin. So more than likely, he wasn't just castrating them because they were black. He was also making sure that that bloodline is all right, we're getting rid of this bloodline, y'all. Fuck that shit. We don't need these people coming back and trying, because people that inspiration shit is amazing. So he's killing that inspiration. But you need to understand that under socialism, black men got castrated, and those black men are probably still alive
And
to this
so
day. Now
what you're speaking about is what happens when fellowship turns sour, when it
goes
turns
awry.
evil, when it turns evil. And secret societies are another example of that. So then you have these people who get this knowledge that essentially is stolen from African civilizations. And then they take this and they begin to use this in secret
Yeah.
against the public, creating whole institutions based off of the Egyptian mystery schools called Greek philosophy, psychiatry,
It took
right?
them 3 generations to find one Greek person that could even understand what was going on over there.
Exactly. And so these things are being used against you that were stolen from you a long
In
time
the
ago.
first
But
in the
hang
first
on,
place.
in the name of fellowship. And so then for if you want to go in, if you allow yourself to go into $100,000, $200,000 in debt, you can join one of their quote unquote Greek civilizations, or organizations, right?
Fraternal
Fraternal
orders. Yeah.
fraternal orders. And then you can pass through all these rites of initiation, and you join them and become part of their fellowship. And then you're in debt for $200,000. You come out of college and you have a job which isn't paying enough, so you're going to be in debt for this, which is essentially a house, before you even own a house. And so
See. Here's the part.
hold
See,
on, hang on. So now you're in debt and you have a job that doesn't pay enough. It pays maybe a third to a quarter of what you owe the school, right? But then you have other life expenses that get in the way, and you have to pay those too. So you're indebted to this system that is already stolen from you, that you wanted and you seek to become a part of, because you were brainwashed and you thought, I need this, I need to be a part of this, I want to be a part of this. So you are drinking this Kool-Aid. You are in a cult and don't realize you are in a cult.
Yes, it's called college, and people don't
No, but
understand
it's
that.
not just college I'm just talking about.
No, no, no. But hold it. I know it's not. But what I'm saying, listen to what you just said. People, okay, I want this information. I pay all this money, and I can't pay it back. That is a vicious cycle. And you think that that's fellowship. And when people get out of college, if they get a degree, even if they don't, they always think they're better than everybody else. That's not how it works. What you did, college gives you the ability to work. That's all. Don't ever think that it's more than that. When you think that you're better because you have a degree, or you think you're better
No.
because, no, that's a hustle. You bought that hustle. That's all. You paid for a hustle and you got suckered.
Yes.
Recognize it. Look, I got a college degree. I'm paying student loans. I ain't better than nobody. No, it's a hustle. But like you said, it's evil, and people use the same. But that same model works for secret societies, works for the military, works for all these.
Right.
That model is being
And
initiated
it's
on us
used over and over
and
and
over.
over.
Yeah,
You getting
that's all.
duped, you getting hustled, and you believe you belong to a fellowship that is really using you and your abilities to further their goals.
Look, it's a pyramid Ponzi scheme.
There it
You
is.
dig?
There it is.
And I'm not saying that education ain't important. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying don't ever consider yourself more than what you really are, and you need to be able to accurately assess your limitations. A man's got to know his limitations, and what happens is that you accomplish a goal, and you should be setting another goal, and moving forward each and every time. Instead, you accomplish that one goal. Now I'm better than everybody, and I sit there and I'm stagnant, but also I'm in debt. Look, the same rule applies for secret societies. One of my homeboys was like, "Hey, my dad is this, Mason way up," and he told me, he said, "Son, the way they get you is because you find out everything that you learned in school is a lie. So then you jump into Masons and then you move up." And he said, then you've realized everything that when you get to the 15th level, and you find out everything you learned before that is a lie. Then you get to the 32nd level, and so you're always learning that, hey, you've been lied to by everybody.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not lying to you. I'm giving you the real dope. And that's how they get you. Oh, I'm
Now,
gonna give you the real dope.
imagine becoming the president of the United States.
And finding out that you're not in charge.
Wait, and then finding out, of course, that you've been lied to so many times, and you're this master mason and all this stuff, and you've got all these degrees, blah blah blah, and you're used to being lied to, and you've lied to get to where you are, and now they give you the talk on your first day in the job when you get into the chair, and they tell you that, Mr. President, we are a civilization that is being controlled by another civilization, and we want to make you aware of this. Now, of course, you cannot speak of this to any other living souls, or you will be killed, and everybody you know will be killed. These reptilians have been on Earth for millions of years, and there's nothing we can do about it. Have a good day, sir. And then at that point, you're like, all right, what do I do?
Yeah.
Jimmy Carter, when he found out the truth about extraterrestrials, they said he cried. So that means it must be some heavy shit.
Look, let me tell you something. Like I said, I've seen UFOs. I ain't saying no aliens or whatever. I ain't saying that. I've seen some shit in the sky, and when you see that, it will make you feel small as hell.
Okay, and then there's other people who have also experienced that, and then you see, you don't talk that. I mean, you probably haven't like told that to many other people. Out of this, number one, you don't give jewels to mules, and then number two, most of these people, there's not many people that you know personally that have experiences, so you would have barely anybody to tell this to. But when you do, or perhaps you will come across somebody who may even bring it up, and you're not bringing it up, and they start telling you about their experience, you have common ground. That's a form of fellowship. It's like, yo, let me tell you about the shit that I saw.
but at the same time, I don't let that shit run my life. I'm not one of these
No,
people that, oh my,
of course you don't. You're
but no,
grounded.
no.
You're
What I'm saying
grounded.
is,
You're grounded.
yeah, but many people do. That's how you end up with the cult. That's how you end up in Waco. You know, what happens is that people are so limited and they're so small that when something big happens to them, they give it more traction or they give it more relevance than they should, and that's how they get sucked into that shit. Like, okay, you know what? I just found out I found out that this, and this happened, and instead of you like, okay, man, shoot, that's cool. Now, don't get me wrong. You know, me and you were reading the same books in high school, so when you first get hit with that, you know what I'm saying? When you first get hit with the Behold the Pale Horses and the New World Orders, and you read that stuff, it makes it hard for you to sleep for a day or two because you're like, okay, where are these people at? Where's this at? What, you know, what's this? But then the fact that you realize what it lets you know is that okay, there's levels to everything. I need to compartmentalize this, keep my eyes open, and be able to recognize and discern when stuff is going down. But I don't sit here and run and hang myself because I'm scared. No, 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 no. Or I don't sit here and start crying because I remember um, me, like I said, we have an episode about Pale Horse. I remember reading a book in high school. So fast forward, I graduated college so about 7 years. So my homegirl who's going to UNO, they have a seminar at UNO about the book.
Hmm.
And so the professor's telling her about the book. It's not a class, it's like a seminar. And so she goes in there and she wigs out. She's like, "Did you know this? Did you know Masons? Every president's been a Mason except for Jimmy Carter, and except for um, uh, three presidents weren't. John F. Kennedy, Jimmy Carter, and Abraham Lincoln weren't. And so she's all up in arms about that. And did you know this? And did you know this? And I'm like, yeah, actually, I did.
Yeah, you've been lied to, kid.
Yeah. And so she's like, well, how do you sleep? I'm like, well, shit, close my eyes and go to sleep. I'm like, look, this is new to you. And I explained to her, I said, you got to understand that just because your world has just been opened up doesn't mean the whole world has changed. So you need to understand where to place this, and how to recognize what's going down. And, you know, how come cops write some people tickets and sometimes they don't? Like, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying racism doesn't exist, but I'm saying if you do that right handshake, he going to let your ass go.
Hmm.
So, you know, you need to be aware of how these things work, but don't allow this to scare you because, like I said, you just found out about it. I knew about it. I understood it. I went to college. I seen Masons because you know at a black school you're gonna see
A lot
Masons,
of them.
you're gonna see Omegas, you're gonna see. And I remember when the homeboys was pledging Freemason and pledging Omega at the same time. And you know what the Masons told him? Like, you can't do both, son. He's like, yeah, I can. And dude was so they beat the shit out of him. And he's like, he's like, you know what? I don't need to be a Mason. And so he decided just to be an Omega. But that kind of stuff happens. And you know these fools in the back room riding goats and shit. And that's
Hmm.
another thing.
Yeah,
You
not riding
know,
goats.
no, hold it. There are different levels to this. I'm not talking about the white ones downtown. I'm talking about just the the Prince Hall. And so that's when you realize that a rodeo is a Masonic is a Masonic event. You don't learn that when you're a kid. Taming a wild animal and all that other stuff. Yeah, that has symbolism to it. And you learn to recognize that stuff. And when people let you in, like, hey, don't you understand that that guy is this, that guy's that, and so you learn that when you see somebody ride a Bronco, yeah, it's a sporting event now, but it had significance back in the day. It had others, and so you learn that stuff,
Hmm.
and then you be able to recognize it. But you don't lose your mind. You don't like, oh my God, let's burn down the horse stall. No, 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 no. You recognize, and then okay, how can I use this information? That and that goes back to fellowship. Is that these people are so desperate to be accepted, or that they're I shouldn't say desperate, where they live at, where they reside, they're not accepted. So they're looking for somebody else. And when somebody else has a common experience, it means so much more to them. Hell, look, it ain't nothing but pimping. It's game. People are running game on each other all the time. And so you got to be able to recognize that. Well, that's the situation. Like, look, my family thinks I'm weird. I might be a little feminine. I might be a little quiet. I'm flamboyant. They don't get me. So then when somebody gets you, you run towards that shit. And you got to recognize that sometimes that was a hustle. They spotted you a mile away. When the lion sizes up the wildebeest, he knows which one's the weakest. You gave off a vibe before you even walked in the room, and these folks are like, they snatched your ass up. So, like, yeah, not all fellowship is good, and not all fellowship is bad. But you got to recognize that some people, that connection is artificial, and that's what you need to be aware of. Like, okay, I got manipulated, and when you find out, don't get mad. Back away slowly, and like, hey, recognize it.
Dude, in the black community, a well-known area, place for fellowship for black men is the barbershop. The barbershop has always been, for me, one of those places where you can walk in, sit down, and be caught in the middle of a conversation about something that is going to be relevant to you
You don't know where it's gonna go. Yeah,
in
you don't
more
even know where the
ways than
conversation's
one.
going.
You might walk in and hear something. It'll be some dude be like, "Listen, the astronauts when they was on the moon, they saw," and you're like, "Wait a minute, what? What y'all here talking about?" And like all of a sudden, it just goes down a crazy ass rabbit hole. But see, that happens at my barbershop all the time, and I love it. My barbershop is like a church. Straight up. My barbershop is like a church, man, because you go in there and you're going to get a good word. You're going to get a word that's going to inform you, that's going to make you laugh, that's going to educate you. I mean, you get everything, dude. You get everything at a damn barbershop. And it's always been that way for a long time in the black community. Dude, my barbershop, I'm the guy. Listen, if motherfuckers is talking about something and like they're quote unquote going deep, I'm gonna listen, and I'm gonna let them say something that is incorrect, and then I'm gonna jump in and I'm gonna lay the fucking hammer down. I'm like, no.
Nigga,
First of
you
all,
Richard Pryor. No, no, hold it. You Richard Pryor's daddy. Remember Richard Pryor's daddy? He said, my daddy would sit there and read the almanac. The fight happened in 1937. Nigga, check the almanac, nigga. Check the almanac.
bro, like, but I always been that guy, man, because like I was always a dude like putting like cats up on game when it came to New World Order, Black History, current events, all that. I mean, just the whole 9 yards, man. Like, and so whenever like something is going down, like I'll hear like somebody just yapping about something. I'll sit there and I'm listening, like I'm like, all right, stop, 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 stop,
Yeah.
stop. This that was good, but let me add to that because you left out some important stuff, and it would just go on into a whole different direction then, man. Like, but that's the fellowship though, because like every time I walk in there, man, I feel good. I'll never walk into that barbershop and feel some negative shit. You might have a guy who has negative energy, but we always like exercise his ass the fuck up out of there real quick. Like none of that shit
Look,
is allowed in the barbershop. It's like a church, man.
I think that shit started going down in '89, maybe '91, where like you had Nike commercials in a barbershop. You had people started recognizing the significance in the black neighborhoods of the barbershop. And it drove me crazy because sometimes it got used, but the fact, beauty shop, barbershop movies and all that, but people don't understand the significance of that because that is real. That is a real place where you would talk about sports, you would talk about politics, you would talk about black history, you would talk in the whole
Basically everything you saw in Jet and Ebony magazine, but like plus deeper stuff.
I remember one time I walked into Youngbloods and it was an older black dude, bald. He was just there hanging out. And my homework was like, "Hey, he played in the Orange Bowl in 1960, whatever." Please forgive me, I don't know because he played for Nebraska. Stuff like you don't know who you're going to see in there. You literally don't know who's going to walk in, and that's why you go. You go for a haircut, of course, but you also go because sometimes it's a positive place and it's just what you can have conversations that you can't have anywhere else. And the other thing is that where you also learn that black people aren't dumb. You always hear don't judge a book by its cover. Well, that's why they got covers on them. But you walk in there, and many of the people that you think are unintelligent, many of the people that you think are vagrants, whatever, homeless, they're not. And then these people will speak up, and you find out a lot of these people got degrees. A lot of these people got this. A lot of these people are businessmen and women. You remember the blind dude with the brooms? We grew up in Omaha. he used to go from barbershop to barbershop business, but he would sell his brooms. He would make them and sell them.
Hmm.
You know, you don't know what you're going to see. And also, that's where you learn how to interact with people because I'm like, he's blind. They're like, yeah, he's blind, but ain't nothing wrong with him. He's a
Right.
man.
Yeah.
He
He,
got
he
kids.
he ain't got, you know what I'm saying, shingles. I mean, he ain't got fucking.
Yeah,
He's not like, he is not the plague and shit. He's still a person, man.
yeah,
Come on, stop
yeah,
acting like an
yeah.
idiot. You do learn
And
etiquette. You do learn etiquette at a barbershop.
yes,
There's a lot of important stuff you learn, life lessons you learn in a barbershop.
decorum.
You
Yeah.
learn about
But
you,
see,
you learn about men. I'm speaking about men. You learn about women. Man, bro, you know how many conversations we have, or you hear conversations about women that men have in a barbershop. I mean, listen, the same goes in the beauty salon. So I mean, don't think that we like single anybody out. Women talk about men in the beauty salon all the time, but in a barbershop, yeah, you're gonna get educated on a lot of different stuff, and that is the beauty of that type of fellowship because it's such a rich place of just fellowship, but also information and I mean brotherhood, like in so many different ways. I mean, you will find yourself like talking with strangers about like some of the most deep and complicated things.
and like I said, the barber, he's a ringleader, but you just don't realize how much information he has. Like, oh,
Hmm.
hey man, I need this done to my car. Hey man, no, I got some pit bulls. Hey man, I remember I was selling something and young blood hit me to something. He's like, hey, this, and this. I'm like, for real? He's like, yeah,
To
just
my
go
old
talk to this
man,
guy.
young blood.
Yeah, yeah, young blood.
Hmm.
You go talk to this person, go talk to that person. And if you go to City Hall, he'll be here on this day. And you like, really? Okay. And it went down like verbatim how he said it was going to go down. So, look, this whole fellowship thing, we not only are we social creatures, we're spiritual creatures. And we people want to avoid the spirituality or take the significance out of everything now because they want to, I don't know, they want to be scientists and they want to be so educated and they're looking for knowledge. But the fact is, you need to be searching for truth. And the truth is that we are connected on so many different levels and for so many different reasons, not just race, not just humanity, not just this, not just that. And, if you want to make stuff work, you'll find a way to. And stop being afraid to have these deep talks about race because that's where we are right now. And unfortunately, if it wasn't for somebody filming a man getting killed, we wouldn't even be having these talks.
So
You know,
check this out, man. So I had a conversation with my barber a couple days ago about speaking to little kids, right? And he had an issue where his woman's car windshield was busted out, and it
mm,
happened in their driveway. And I said, well, it's probably some badass kids that live in that neighborhood, just some dumb motherfuckers with nothing to do. I asked him, do you talk to the little boys in the neighborhood? He's like, no. And I'm like, why? He said, because I want to be the guy that them kids fear. I want to be the guy that people know not to come near him or you're going to get shot. I said, man, listen to me. You fucking up by doing that. You creating a wall around yourself, and all you gonna have is these little motherfuckers egging your house and fucking your house up because you an outsider. You can't behave like that around these little black boys, man. You gotta talk to them. I said you gotta understand some of these boys ain't got no father, so they don't have guidance. You gotta talk to these boys, man. You gotta make them understand who you are and that you are a tree in that forest and they have to respect you because you are an elder. But you maintain that eldership by teaching. It's not just because you old or you're older. You have to teach. You have to be a steward for those young souls.
you got to give them some,
You got
information,
to give them
knowledge.
some knowledge, drop some gems.
Look, I've been through that shit. And the whole thing is, what you're saying is not to be an outsider in your own neighborhood, and people don't see it that way no more. Everybody wants to be a
Man,
badass. Everybody wants to be a
no.
gangster now.
See, no, 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 no. But I told him, I said, bro, you living out of fear. Fear always loses to love in the long run. You gotta give love to these kids. And I ain't saying be all hunky dory. Nah, bro. I'm saying be a big brother to these kids. And I ain't saying open your door and like start handing out ham sandwiches. I'm not saying that either. But pull them aside when you see them doing dumb shit. Talk to the kids, man. That's fellowship. That's a That is a form of fellowship. It becomes a form of fellowship that becomes something else. But it can become mentorship, but it starts with fellowship. You know what I mean? You have to make these kids realize that they have something in common with you instead of just a zip code.
Look, the issue is that people don't want to be adults anymore, and you got to raise people. You got to raise kids. I'm not just
A
talking about your own. I'm
village.
talking
It
about
takes a
yeah.
village.
And we don't want to be a village anymore. We all want to exist on this island emotionally and independently. And I got here on my own, and I own my. And look, I had somebody bust my window out my Mercedes once, and I'm like, "Ma, I'll take care of it." But the fact of the matter is, them little kids that in the hood, like, "Hey, Ren, such and such was in your car." Like, I said, "Did you see him do it?" Like, "No, I didn't see him do it, but I seen him touch your car." Yeah, so I'm like, "Okay, cool." And so you deal with that.
Hold on.
But
So
that's
where did this happen at? Did it happen in the old neighborhood or happen in like
nah, not happened in front of my mom's house
the
over there on
off of
Hartman.
yeah.
Yeah, they opened the Mercedes, just bust the window out, took some papers for no reason,
Did you
and
ever
the
find
kids
out who
told
did
me,
it?
nah, the kids like they said they told me where the kid came from or the hood he was in, but he ain't from over here. I'm like, yeah, if I catch him, cool, but ain't no big deal. I went and had the window replaced
But
and got
see,
it
but hold
fixed.
on. But you see what you did there though? Who told you about it? The kids in the neighborhood. So these kids, you've already had several conversations with these kids before. They at least know who the fuck you are, man, because you made your presence known at some point, yeah?
That's what you're supposed to do, and not in a negative way or an intimidating way. Nah, like, hey, what's up? Your birthday? Okay, cool. Who's that? Yeah, you got to care about your surroundings. The problem right now, everybody wants to be a superstar. Everybody wants to be some kind of celebrity, and they think that they're better than
Bruh.
everybody else. And they're
And
not.
like, you know what? Not just those kids, because think about it. Those kids got parents. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Hey,
exactly.
on Christmas, take a sweet potato pie to their house, but like, here you go. You know what I'm saying?
Interact. Yeah, interact
Interact
with
with
people.
people. Like, yo, there was this white dude asked a legit question. He was like, I don't know shit about Black Lives Matter or the struggle, but I want to learn more. What can I do? And all these people were just like clown him. I said, listen, I said, number one, if you got black neighbors, go over and introduce yourself. Go say hello and let them know, hey man, we having a barbecue. You welcome to come over. We got some beer. We got some meat on the grill. Listen, guys will bond quicker over an open grill, an open flame with some meat on it, faster than anything with some and beers. Faster than anything. Y'all might not know shit about each other, but y'all got some meat on the grill and you got some beers, you got some drinks. Y'all gonna start talking and shit's gonna come together. Black, white, it don't matter, man.
Look, you said some deep stuff before. When it comes to this Black Lives Matter, you got the movement and you got the organization. I don't know about that organization, but I do know about the movement.
Right?
It's just simple. It's simple. As a black person, when we're getting killed on camera, it shouldn't happen. Okay. And then now there's two responses that white people give that are inappropriate to give. So if you're white people, listen up. One, don't be hollering at me, all lives matter. Because if all lives matter, then why the hell are we here in the first place? We wouldn't be here because, you know, now, second thing white people say, what about black on black crime? Because I heard a white person say that same
That's
shit
the
when I
same.
was,
That's the same conversation I had right after I talked about the teaching the kids. That's the same conversation I had with this barber about the. Listen, I'm sorry. I gotta say this, man. So first of all, people, we're at war on multiple levels: mind, body, and spirit, simultaneously all the time. You have to know this. You have to know this, and it won't stop. But as black people, we are trained multitaskers. So when it comes to dealing with black on black crime, which is down, you have to understand that we got to put out more than one fire at the same time. That's just how it is. We don't have time to stop and take a break and do this and that over here. No, what happens is we have people who are qualified to deal with this over here, put that fire out. We have the people who are qualified to speak on this and interact on this over here, put that fire out. So, you guys also got to understand a lot of black on black crime is instigated by government forces who bring guns and drop guns off into areas like South Central Los Angeles, Oakland, California, Omaha, Chicago on the South Side, everywhere. But like I was saying, you are at war on multiple levels simultaneously. When people try and complain about black on black crime in the midst of the current climate, I tell them we can do both at the same time. We can do both at the same time. Go ahead, man.
We can have both talks. That's the whole issue. The other issue that okay, if white folks because this is their argument. Well, black on black crime, more black people kill white people than white people kill black people. These numbers, I'm like, okay, I got you. So let me help you out. So let's discuss Tulsa, Oklahoma. So you got Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Mecca. We ain't messing with white folks. White folks get jealous, blow it up. Do you know the second time there was a bombing of a black hood was Philadelphia, and was it 91, 90, something like that. They bombed. So I'm like, when have the police bombed a white area? It don't happen. When when you saw that the black folks being prosperous, not needing you, you saw a need to destroy that. If Tulsa, Oklahoma was still going to this day, we would have a black bank. We would have black stuff. We would be able to go to them and not have to go to white people. That's the problem with the colonizer. You only see things from the colonizer's point of view. Now, the other thing, me and you only touched on it a little bit, is we always want to hear people say, hey, Trump's in office, this, and this. But so if Hillary had got in, has done more to destroy the black community than anything else. And prime example is her killing Gaddafi. She bragged about killing Gaddafi. Now, Gaddafi was uniting these 22 African nations for oil. Long story short, if you wanted to buy oil from them, you had to purchase their currency. That would have killed the dollar. Gaddafi was doing stuff with black nations and black people, and who he considered himself black. You got to understand that every time that we try to do something major, white folks kill. See, that's systemic racism. We ain't talking about following little black kids, police officers and shit. That don't mean every time that we try to create our own wealth, our own place in this world, where we have no need for the white folks, that will kill the white folks society, and they can't stand for it. That's what you need to recognize. So if you want black people to start killing each other, give us all our jobs, give us our 40 acres and a mule, give us our housing, give us our reparations for being black and being Native American. Give me my reparations. I get 2 checks from you. I get one for being a Native because my family's Cherokee, and then give me the other one for my people being African. So give me and that's another thing. Well, everybody came to America for benefits. Everybody came over here for benefits. Going back to the 1600s, everybody did. So stop pretending like when I ask for benefits that I'm asking for a handout, because your people got benefits too. So that's the part. You make it a bad thing for black people to ask for something, but white folks been asking for shit the entire time they've been here. So please forgive me. I digress. What I'm saying is that when you want to have these conversations, but you want to have them in a vacuum. You only want to have the part of the conversation that suits you and suits your narrative. You only want to talk about black on black. What about? I'm like, yes, right now. Hey, I don't want to hurt your feelings, bruh. But let me tell you, Roscoe, in Omaha right now, we getting shootings every day, and it's 15-year-olds, 16-year-olds, 17-year-olds, 21-year-olds.
Hey, excuse me. Where am I from? Do you think I'm surprised at this shit? Do you remember the era that we grew up in? None of that bullshit surprised me. Listen, but also remember that those are children that's doing that.
But that's the problem, is that ain't no guidance and ain't nobody raising them. But the fact of the matter is this: it's really hard to raise a child when you got to go to work every day because you're a single parent. It's really hard to raise a child when you got 2 parents in the house, but then your kids go visit somebody else's house, and their whole dynamic is different. Where back in the day, like if I went to your house, your parents were in charge. You came to my house, my mom was in charge.
Yeah, that's just the law.
But the law is different in every house now. And so these children are experiencing things they shouldn't be experiencing. Look, the whole idea of this whole spiritual connection. What happens when the people no longer are spiritual? That's killing. That's one thing killing the fellowship right now, is that people ain't spiritual no more. And so what happens is that connection before, when people would connect, Like I said, you had black and white, you had Chinese and Mexican, you had all these different races that would get along because yeah, because you believed in a common thing. Like, hey, we got to do this and this matters. But now ain't nobody got no common goal no more, and they're pushing individuality sometimes when they should be pushing like, okay, solidarity. They ain't doing that. You're not hearing it in the media. And don't get me wrong, like I said, you see in the NFL, like we talked about Drew Brees, when you these white folks like, yeah, it's about the flag, it's about this. Then all of a sudden they see that video, they're like, oh, I get it. They see that George Floyd video, or like the two worst ones right now. You got the military girl who got killed at work, and then you got this Breonna Taylor, the one that got shot up in her own house. How do you excuse that? Especially with the Breonna Taylor, when the person they were supposedly looking for got arrested earlier that day, and then you can't sue the cops. Nah, man.
So what happens is you wind up with a lot of people that gather in solidarity to fight against that injustice, and that is a form of fellowship.
That's what okay. But that what's so important is that it's not just marching. We got to participate in the government. That's how you get stuff fixed. We got to participate in the negotiation process for these police, because I keep hearing everybody, we need to get rid of the police union. No, you don't. You need to negotiate something in that damn contract where you say, somebody, if you fuck up 5 times as a police officer, you ain't got a job no more.
Here's what's going on though. Those police have this fellowship they believe in, this thin blue line.
Yes.
And
Yes.
that is
Yes.
an example of a dark form of fellowship where they have a power that they wield over people, and they falsely believe that they are without reproach and that they are above the law. But there is a reckoning that is upon us, and they are seeing that they cannot run from justice, the justice of the courts, but most importantly, the justice of the people. Now, in closing this, I want to bring back to the theme of fellowship, because that's how we start this thing off. And so we are realizing now that we need each other. We need each other, and it's really important. I have shows that I listen to, podcasts that I listen to, and when they're not putting shows up on a regular basis, I'm like, yo, what's going on? That's part of my everyday mental diet or my weekly mental diet. The same thing
My
with this show.
my routine. My
It's the
routine.
same thing with this show. We are happy to be a part of your weekly mental diet, part of your weekly routine. And we will do everything in our power to keep rocking strong and bringing you a good word every week. And with this word, we bring fellowship. We need it. Let's keep it going. And you can get it in many places in your life. Keep it positive. Keep that fellowship positive, and we're going to keep bringing it to you. Peace.
Learn how to disagree and still love people. Holla.